All right. Test 1, 2. Okay.
I hear you loud and clear. Everything seems to be working fine. If you have anything else you want to test or talk about, just let me know.
That is hilarious. Oh, boy. Okay. All right. Well, I am going to get going, or maybe I should wait a minute just to give a few people a chance to get going. Let's see. You know what? Put a note, if you would, Christian, in the just to make sure that the chat room is functioning properly. And or if Catherine is watching, she could put a note in there. It seems to be kind of sitting at 9:15 in the morning, which is like 15 minutes ago. Yeah. All right, good man. Thank you. And I'll wait a minute for it to get the announcement here, and then we'll get going. Yes, indeed. There you go. Oh, there's Janet. Good morning, Janet. Okay. All right, well, I'm going to get going. Thank you, Christian. Back to the slave ship. Back to work. You know what I want to talk about today? Janet, since she's the only one that's made the comment in the page there, is how we have to watch our mouth. That mouth gets you in trouble. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So here we go. We'll start the show. 3, 2, 1, and we roll. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Here we are back again on Perilous World Radio. I'm Alan Masters. What I want to talk about today is that we need to watch our mouths. And it's just so true because what does it say? I was just looking it up, actually. It was Matthew 15:11. Let's just read it to you so you know. Jesus was talking to the Pharisees in both Matthew 15 and Mark 7. And he says they were upset because his disciples didn't follow strict religious rules about the ritual of hand washing before eating. And to them, holiness was about external behavior, rules, appearances, traditions, which, you know, that still goes on today. Come on, everybody knows that. Everybody, it's like the optics. But anyway, Jesus basically then said, where was the first one? There was 2. Okay, so Matthew 15:11. What goes into someone's mouth does not defile them, but what comes out of their mouth is that is what defiles them. Jesus was teaching that a person is made unclean more by their words and condition of their heart than by the food that they eat. So, you know, what comes out of our mouth, it's pretty serious stuff. And so I was thinking, well, what do you do about it? It's your mouth. You're thinking and you're saying what you're thinking and out it comes. And I thought, how do you do? How do you stop that? How do you stop that? It's like you wanted to say it, so you said it. But it really, and I thought I was kind of just pondering upon it before the show. And I thought, well, yes, I wanted to say it, so I said it. But did I really want to say it? Did I, the spiritual me, really want to say mean things, cruel things, foul things? No, not really. It's the side of me that the kind of the dark side, the thing that gets in us that has more control over what comes out of our mouth a lot of times than we do. And it's just not the way it should be. And so I have been, as I'm getting older, I have started kind of looking at what comes out of my mouth. And even after it comes out of my mouth, I go, ooh, I wish I wouldn't have said that. How many times have you said something to somebody maybe that you love? that you regret saying. You think about it and you regret it and you go, God, I wish I wouldn't have said that. But usually it's like it's too late because you said it 10, 15 minutes ago, whatever it is, and then your conscience catches up with you. And you're thinking, well, I'm just going to just let it roll. Just let it ride. It's too late now. So I've gotten, as I've gotten more mature, if I say something now, a good example, I was at Home Depot the other day. And I guess I out myself a lot, but I was at Home Depot and I went over to these two guys because I'm doing a lot of, remodel stuff on a building right now. And I went over to these two guys that were standing there mumbling, talking to each other. They're wearing the orange suits, the whatever they call those little things they wear. And I said, hey guys, I go, I'm working on some hardwood floors and I got to ask somebody, a question and about, the process of putting clear coat on after the stain. And the guy says, go right over there to the paint department. And I said, I was over there, but there's only this little young gal over there that's just kind of doing stuff. And the guy looks at me and he goes, she's in the paint department. She's taken all the classes. She knows what she's doing. You need to go ask her. She knows more than us. And then I looked at the other guy who was probably my age in his 60s, and he shook his head. He goes, yeah, she knows more than us. And I was like, I go, really? I go, she looks like she's 12 years old. And so the guy goes, no, she knows. So I said, oh my gosh. So I went over and I asked the gal what, I told her what I was doing and she goes, well, come on over here. Let me show you this. And so it's funny. So she's showing me what I should do and talking to me about all these different products that I can, put on the floors of this place. And I didn't want to believe her. I did not want to believe her because I thought she can't. I mean, maybe she was 23 or 24. My mind was saying, she ain't got it. She don't know. She hasn't suffered. Look at her. She looks like a kid. And that's how, when you get older, you start judging based on appearances. And she just looked like a young kid. But she actually gave me some pretty good advice. So I did not buy what she told me I should buy. I just thought, I'm not doing it. It's what she wanted me to buy was too much money. It was like $64 a gallon for this clear. And I'm like, I'm going to have 10 gallons to clear this floor. And I thought to myself, well, you know what? I still don't trust. When you don't trust, you don't trust. You can't move forward. So I left. I went back to the guy that's helping do this stuff, this painter. And he says to me, well, there's a place that specializes in floors in Medford, which is about, 30 minutes away. So I decided I'm going to go to this floor place. And I walked in there and I told them what I was doing. And they basically gave me the exact same advice that she did. But it was men. Big, burly men. She was this cute little gal. Little young 20-something gal. They gave me the exact same advice. She was right. So anyway, they talked me into $74 a gallon for this product, which if I would have just listened to the girl, I could have got the stuff for $64 instead of $74, but I paid extra because it served me to buy from the men. Male chauvinist pig thing happening there. So anyway, and it's okay. Everybody's got their thing. I'm a little bit of a male chauvinist pig. But anyway, so I learned from it though. This is why I'm telling this story. I learned from it. So I went and I took the product back to the guys and we cleared the floors and did all the work and everything. And then I needed something else. I had to go back to the paint department. I went back to Home Depot in the paint department and I was walking by and there she was again. There she was. And I needed to get something in the paint department. And I walked over to her and I said, I owe you an apology. And she looks at me and she goes, why is that? And I said, because you were right. I went all the way to Medford. They told me the exact same thing that you did. And you were 100% correct. And your product was cheaper. And it was basically the same stuff, except they buy it in such huge bulk that they can offer it as a less price than these little mom and pop places. And I said, so I'm going to come back to you as I need things. And I said, but I apologize for not thinking you had enough knowledge because you're young. And she looked at me and she laughed. She goes, yeah, well, I took classes on all this stuff before I started this job and blah, 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 blah. And she was very sweet. But I remember the whole experience as I stood there. I thought, I want to purge myself of these thoughts. And the only way I can really do that was to repent. Now, you could say, well, that ain't repenting. It sure is. You don't have to wait until you're a murderer and you're sitting in a jail cell with a life sentence to go, Lord, I'm sorry for killing that man. Because that murderous thought started out as a little judgment and turned into a bigger judgment and a bigger hateful judgment. And it, like a snowball rolling down the hill, it got bigger and bigger and bigger over your lifetime. And one day what was a little judgment that went unchecked turn into murderous thoughts. And this is what you see in the world today. All these snowball effects that have all been angry at their parents, angry at the I don't know, the man, the system, the politics, and everybody is just about to just explode. And they all have hateful, angry, murderous thoughts on their heart. It all starts with the inability to admit when you've made a mistake. So I admit it to perfect strangers now if I make a mistake. So we'll take a little break and talk more about this stuff. It's important. Stay with us. Alan Masters here today on Perilous World Radio talking about, well, I guess it starts with my original thought of, we got to watch our mouths. Matthew 15:11. What goes into someone's mouth does not defile them, but what comes out of their mouth, that is what defiles them. And then Mark 7:15, also similar. Nothing outside a person can defile them by going into them. Rather, it is what comes out of a person that defiles them. And what does that mean? So it was something that was worth giving thought to, because I thought, this mouth of mine with my wife and my children and my friends, my employees, it can cause havoc. What do they say? There's an old saying, the tongue is mightier than the sword. Is that right? Maybe you guys know out there listening. Here's one right here. It says Proverbs 12:18. There is one whose rash words are like a sword thrust, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. So that's kind of along the same line there. You can do good with your tongue. You can be kind and loving and thoughtful. And even in your corrections, it's so funny because, man, oh man, I got young guys working with me. And every now and then they'll do something it is just dumb. As an older dude now, I could say, well, that's just dumb. What are you doing? Or I could say, hold on, look twice. What's the old saying in the carpentry world? Measure twice, cut once. You can't uncut a piece of wood, right? Same thing when you lose someone's trust and you cut them with sharp words, you can't retrieve those words. Although, even though the words have been said and some damage may have been done, there is something called grace and repentance and being sorry, so that if you say it, it comes out of your mouth and you catch yourself being mean, being snide, being brash, just being a jerk. I'll just use some normal words, being an a-hole to somebody for no real good reason. I mean, is there really a good reason? No. But when you do that, if you say, you know what, hold on. I got to take that back. That was so stupid of me. I'm sorry. You don't deserve that. You're my friend. and I care about you, but there's a side of me that wants to just be nasty. So I'm sorry. The person will look at you and go, what the hell just happened to you? I just had a moment of realization. That's what happened. It's kind of fun. It's kind of interesting, actually, to catch yourself, because really you're not even catching yourself. You're catching Mr. Nefarious. You're catching the dark side of yourself, using you, actually projecting through you its darkness. I like them words. And that's what it is, because it's using you to project its darkness onto someone else. But what we're supposed to do is project God's light through us into somebody else's life. And guess what? That's healing and growing and living and loving, and it works. The other one is destructive and hateful, and it's just bad, period. Your mouth does a lot of this stuff. I'm going to read this one. I haven't read it, but somebody puts Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Thank you for this. And those who love it will eat its fruits. This verse emphasizes that our words can either uplift or destroy, highlighting the significant. There you go. Same guy. James, or person, I don't know, it's GWC Rumble on our chat page. James 3:5-6. Likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Ain't that the truth? Consider what the great forest is set on fire by a small spark. Yes, exactly right. The tongue also is a fire, a spark. See, you guys are tracking with me. I can see that. But what happens when you've said it and you see the pain, there's something in us that actually enjoys inflicting the pain, because you wouldn't have said it if the person hadn't been cruel to you. And live by the sword, die by the sword, right? So they're cruel to you, and you're like, oh, touche, or no, not touche. Actually, it's when somebody wants to fight you with a sword. There's a word that they say, like on guard, and all of a sudden you're fighting. You're sword fighting with words. Somebody says something mean and rude to you. You say something mean and rude back, or there's another way to deal with it. You either react in a negative reaction, negative way, or you respond with calmness, kindness, and patience, because you realize, oh, you're trying to get me to react. You catch it. You go, oh. So then you're like, well, I can easily out sword fight this person. I'm smarter. I'm older. I'm wiser. I've had more life experience. Let's go. There's a nice opportunity right here for me to, put another notch in my belt, so to speak. Or you can respond with calmness, kindness, and patience. You can look at him and say, wow, was that meant to hurt? Were you trying to hurt me? Because, we're friends. I didn't think, I don't want to play that game. I don't want us to start down that road where we're constantly nitpicking at each other. Like chickens. Every now and then, if you've ever had chickens, you'll see the chickens will like pluck the feathers off the other chickens. What happened to that chicken over there? Half his feathers are gone. It's like, because the other ones are, what they call it, a pecking order, right? I don't want to be a part of an animal world pecking order. None of us, no one does. So this is why people, when they work for somebody who is fair and honest and respects human life and other human beings, they don't put people in a hierarchy over other people. It's different. Some people have jobs where they're in a position where they have to make decisions on behalf of other people, because that's the kind of the economics of the world. But they don't have to do it in a demeaning, demoralizing, wicked way where they're lording over other people. So why do people follow good leaders? because they're good leaders. It's not just because they're good looking, because they've got principles, morals, values, and virtues, and they use those in their everyday life. And when they make a mistake, because we're all human, they say, you know what? Hold on. I shouldn't have said that. That was wrong. I'm sorry. You don't hear that very often, do you? Another commercial break. It's Perilous World Radio, and we'll be right back with more of this kind of conversation. Stay with us. I'm Alan Masters. FHU.com is our website. FHU.com. Foundation of Human Understanding. My dad, Roy Masters, wrote many, many books. I think like 20 or 25, somewhere in there. A couple of them are iterations of other ones, but one of his most famous was How Your Mind Can Keep You Well. And he has a meditation exercise called, I was going to call it A Moment of Truth, but that's not it. That was the radio show. How Your Mind Can Keep You Well in a Moment of Truth. No, it's the meditation exercise. They call it the 7-minute meditation, but the full name was, oh my gosh, brain fart. What the heck? Oh God, you guys help me out here. What did he call it? I'm having a total 65-year-old minute. It was called Be Still and Know. My God, that's funny. I am totally getting old. That's all there is to it. Be still and know, the meditation exercise. And it was based upon what God said. Be still and know that I am God. And, you know, we don't spend enough time. We don't spend enough time with God in that stillness that he said. Be still and know that I am God. And we always ask, how do I get closer to God? How do I get to know God better? Well, and I always tell people, what did he say? Be still and know that he is God. And so where do you find that stillness? What is stillness? And, but my dad started that meditation exercise, which you can spend 7 minutes on it, the 7-minute meditation, or you can spend a half an hour or more with the long version, but you can find it all at FHU.com. And, it's an essential part of life, I think, because it brings you to a closer relationship to God, to where you're not relying on your own self. You're not relying on your own, it says not to rely on your own understanding. We all try to rely on our own understanding. God said not to rely on our own understanding. And there's a reason for that, because it is tainted. It's woven together with the understanding of the world. And the problem is our minds are not really designed to be woven together with the world. Our mind is simple. And so all of a sudden then we have this thing called logic. And so the world uses a lot of logical, well, that's logical. Well, that's logical to me. So we get talked out of just being still and being quiet. So God made it real simple when he said that, be still and know that I am God. It's like, you don't have to think too much. Matter of fact, it's kind of unthinking. It's really, it's a way to stand apart from your thinking. And that's where you find that famous thing called stillness, is apart from your own thinking. So I got an email or a text. I think it was a text. I guess it was a text from a guy. And he says, I've been listening to your dad since I was 18 years old. And I'm 70. I think he was 71. He says, and if you ever get to the Boston area in Massachusetts, I'd love to take you out to dinner. And I imagine I've met him before in my life. And I think he said we met one time. And I thought to myself, wow, 50 some odd years, it's a long time to be listening to a man about his opinions on life and what have you. And my dad had a lot of very good observations. That's why he called it the observation meditation exercise. If you think about things just a little bit and you look at the thinking and you're like, oh my gosh, that thinking is just too much. And then you step back once away from the thinking and you observe, you just become the watcher. All of a sudden you're in a whole nother realm. You're in a whole another realm. And you realize that all this stuff that's going on in this world is all superficial. It's all part of like the Matrix, that Matrix movie. It's all part of the Matrix. And all of a sudden you step out of it and you're like, oh, there it is. There it is. I don't want to be a part of that anymore. I don't want to be a part of the world. You're supposed to be, yes, on the world, but not of the world. But how do you do that? And that's why this meditation exercise is it's so simple and so easy. It's almost too simple and too easy, and people try too hard to make things happen. It's the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. That's what KISS stands for. Keep it simple, stupid. The point is that we complicate our lives. We complicate even the meditation exercise. Well, I'm not getting this and I'm not getting that and I'm not doing this. You know what? Just don't worry about it. You're putting too much worry. Worry is the lack of faith, and fear is the lack of faith. What you have to learn how to do is kind of submit yourself with humility to the power of God. And it ain't easy. I get it. It ain't easy. It's like the great nothing. Remember that movie? What was that movie where they were searching for the great nothing? I can't remember it now. Maybe it'll come to me. Anyway, this whole thing about be still and know that I am God. It's a very puzzling thing because it's like, yeah, all right, so I'll stand here and I'll just stand here and look around and wait. That's not it. You're just being impatient. You're trying to will God to come to you. That's really what it is. A lot of us, we get willful and I'm here, God, where are you? I got things to do. I don't have all day to have you show up in my life. That's just willful and ugly. You think he's going to come to you at that point? No. He's looking for submission. He's looking for you to say, okay, you're God and I ain't. I'll be patient. I'll wait. And that's why I remember my dad used to always talk about, he'd say, I do my show at night because that's when people are most alone. And that's when they're most in pain because, and of course now in the 50s and 60s and 70s and even 80s before the advent of the internet, nowadays you aren't alone ever. You've got that thing that is right in the palm of your hands that you can be anywhere in the universe with just a few words. Siri or Google or whatever will take you wherever you want to go. And I said that and my phone lit up. How do you like that? All right, stop it, Siri. I don't need you right now. Anyway, but the point is that when my dad started this radio program, it was because people were just alone, looking up at the ceiling in such pain, mental anguish, post-traumatic stress from relationships, not only those of the wars and of, rape, but emotional cruelty from the parents, from the teachers at school, from the professors at the school, from the friends. Post-traumatic stress, not knowing what to do with it, not being able to deal with the pain because your brain, your mind is torturing you on top of that because it's a reel that plays over and over and over and won't shut up until such times you can't take it anymore. Yes, Ricky in Oregon said Royd called it many names, the meditation exercise. The meditation, I remember, called it something like, there's an old record here, the calitosis of something or other, of schmalatosis, I don't know, whatever it was, originally. Catherine, if you could, in Joanne's offices, one of those original records from like 1958. If you would grab that for me if you're listening to the show, which I think she is. Anyway, I'll read what it says. It's kind of funny. But, what it boils down to is coming back to my original thought, is we got to watch what comes out of our mouth. Because somebody says here, the tongue is the rudder, which is why the devil wants control of it. Look at that. But it's funny because this thing, which is such a wonderful thing, communication, such a wonderful thing. To be able to communicate, cows and dogs and cats and animals, birds tweet, cows moo, dogs bark, cats meow. That's all they got. That's it. And it's just different variations of the same noise. But we have individual words that have incredible, great meaning. And what do we choose? We choose the F word as like there are people that cannot speak a full sentence without having an F word in it. And it's disturbing. It's like it's completely insane. Here comes Catherine. She's got the record. Oh yes. I don't think those are the ones actually, but I'll look at them. There's one that's even older than that. Oh yeah, look at these old suckers. This is so funny. I know you can't see it if you're on the radio. But inside of this stuff that we get, that we have all these old archives. Oh my gosh. It's so old. It's incredible. Let's see if one of these has the words on it I was looking for. Let's see. Yes, here it is. Amazing. Look at this old record I'm holding. It says, Foundation of Human Understanding. It says simply this: your mind can keep you well. And it's called the psychocatalysis meditation exercise. 1960, the year I was born, 65 years old, psychocatalysis meditation exercise. I got to listen to this one. This has got to be good. Anybody got a record player? Goodness gracious me. That's an oldie. Anyway, how cool is that? But psychocatalysis. If I heard somebody says, hey, you want to try the old psychocatalysis? I'd say, get away from it. What is that? I don't know what that is. It's because my dad was diving deep into trying to be able to be closer to God. What does it mean to be still and know? Be still. Where is stillness? How do I get there? What is that? People don't ask that anymore. They want to know where the nearest Starbucks is. All right, another commercial break, and we'll be right back with more Perilous World Radio. Alan Masters here. A simple thing today. Watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. Watch what comes out of it. Listen to the words that are coming out of you. You might be shocked. The real true you. The true you, if you could be objective to you, which is hard because you are you. How do you be objective to yourself? You can. You literally can. I often wonder when I would be in Hollywood doing some thing with Hollywood movie stars and people like that, I would think to myself, does that person actually think that people believe or take that seriously, the way they're dressing, the way they're acting? You know, I used to have this friend of mine, and he was a sweet guy. He'd always come up to me and goes, love you, man. Love you. And at first I thought, gosh, he loves me. What a nice thing. But it was the same way that people can say F you, that brings a response. You react to the word, a response of, wow, what are you saying to me? The one when somebody says, hey, love you very much. I love you, man. You get a feel-good reaction, which is the other side of the same sword, double-edged sword. If you react to love you and they can do what they want with you, then what about when they say F you, then you're going to turn into a raging fool. The thing is to be in the middle. And if somebody says, hey, love you, man, you say, oh, thank you very much. If somebody says F you, you go, oh, that's kind of a rude word. It's like, you don't have to react. The way you respond is, it's It is what it is. Just words. Sticks and stones will break your bones. Words will never harm you. Well, they will harm you because you don't have a firewall to keep them from harming you. But until you put up your firewall, which is the armor of God, and you realize that words are just words. My dad wrote a book, Secret Power of Words. But when I was a young person, I grew up with the professor in the classroom. So he just simply says, don't respond, don't react, just watch, and you'll know what to do. And I'm like, all right. Took me a long time. And then you fall off the wagon and you start becoming worldly and you start picking up on certain words and you start picking up on certain language and lingo. And my sister moved to Texas and she started saying y'all. All I could hear was, blah, 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 y'all come down to see us, y'all. And I was like, Diane, quit it. What is that? She goes, well, that's what they say around here. Well, what if they say around here is the F word all the time? You going to pick that one up too? Well, we do. It's like, well, I'm just talking the language he understands. You know what? You are putting that person in a very low position in life. You're saying you're talking the language he understands. Actually, he or she would understand the language that you spoke if you chose not to use that language they understand, because then you're raising them up. You're bringing them up instead of talking down at that lower gutter level. You could say, I would use the F word the way you do, but it's kind of a dirty word, and I don't like to let dirty words come out of my mouth. And they may go, well, yeah, it's just a word. It's a dirty word. There's a lot of dirty words. And when you say one. And when you say mean words, or you put a couple of words together in a short little sentence that is designed to cut and do damage and do harm and inflict pain. We know that. But when we don't know it, when we're not ourselves, when we have lent our vessel to the dark side, he kind of is like the hypnotist that says, close your eyes and do as I say. And you close your eyes and you give yourself over. Uh-oh. That's a bad one, because then when you open your eyes and you're being handcuffed because you just did some horrible thing to your wife, your husband, your friend, your whatever, whoever, you can be man or woman and do these things. I'm telling you. Don't give yourself over by slowly but surely sinking into the lower level of the quicksand of life. You keep sinking down using ugly language, mean language. You're adopting the other guy's way. You're adopting the dark side. Slowly but surely, like hourglass sand, you're letting it run through you. The sand through the hourglass. And one day, the last piece of sand falls through, and you're like, now what? I have a friend sitting in jail right now. Right now. He's a nice guy. He's kind of a decent guy, actually. But he keeps getting in trouble for stupid things. And then it's like he drinks and drives and gets in trouble. And then somehow he doesn't pay his registration on his car, and he gets pulled over, and he's back in jail because now he's driving on a suspended license while he's waiting for the court thing. Now double down, and we keep doubling down and tripling down and quadrupling down, and it gets worse and worse, and he's sinking into the quicksand of this world. What's it going to take to wake this guy up? What does it take to wake us up? We don't always get caught that way. Maybe he's lucky. Maybe he's lucky that he's getting caught. I don't know. It's everybody in their own thing. But what does it take for us to get to be woken up by our own foolishness? I tell you, it's learning how to be objective to your own self. And it's so achievable. But it's too easy. So we just don't do it. There's another hour of this program right after this. It's Perilous World Radio. Stay with us. Hour 2 of the show we'll call the show today, Shut Your Mouth. Oh, what's the old saying? You're better off quiet and thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. Yikes. Yeah, so I've been talking about learning how to be objective to the words that come out of your mouth and your own self. And because it starts really with the thoughts. If you can see the thoughts before they come out of your mouth and do the damage, then maybe you'll bite your tongue and think just a moment before you open your mouth and say horrible, mean things. And you'll all of a sudden, if you pause for just a second, maybe God will, by the grace of God, he will give you something productive to say. And you know, it's funny because most people don't even believe in that. They don't believe there's any other way to have some sort of a disagreement than to call names. We saw it on TV just the other day. What was it? Maxine Waters was grilling the head of whatever it was, and he's a dignified guy, and she asked him a question and he's answering it, and he didn't give her the answer she wanted to hear, so she goes, "Why don't you shut up?" And he goes, "Why don't you learn how to have some dignity?" And it was just, oh my gosh, you know, the whole thing of why don't you shut up? It's like, oh my gosh, that's just, when you say that, when you say, why don't you just shut up? You've gotten to the point where you're not really having a disagreement anymore. Now you are trying to overpower, and maybe it's a man telling a woman, maybe it's a woman telling a man. Like that was she was exerting her power of her position so she could say whatever she wants. How do we shut him up? Why don't you shut up? It's like, wow. Is that really what we are down to now in our government, where look at how many people are saying the F word. The governors of states saying the F word on national television, knowing they're on camera, and telling ICE to get the F out of their state. What? Where is the dignity? There isn't any. They have gotten to the lowest common denominator now of politician. Foul mouth, zero morals, principles, values. They're all out the window. Out the window with all that stuff. And we have sat back with apathy, not caring who's in charge of our cities and states. And because we don't even get off our butts and vote. And guess what? When you don't vote, you have to settle for what the people that voted put in. And that's what we've got. The people that were mad about everything and didn't like what they saw with the Republican folks, they voted in all these Mondani or whatever his name is in New York, and all the different, what's his name? I'm so glad I have a bad memory for these people's names. But the guy in California, it's like all over. You look around in Michigan and it's Chicago. It's everywhere. Who puts these people in power? Oh, it's us, because we're like, I don't want to get involved. I hate that stuff. I agree. I don't either, but I don't want to also have to be left to the life that is now going to be my life because I didn't vote. I have to deal with who they put in power. And my dad used to say, cannibals make cannibal kings in power. And that's how it is. So you have nowhere else to go. Where else do you go? A lot of people are like, I'm going to go to Europe. Oh my gosh, look at Europe. What a mess. I said to somebody just this morning, somebody was saying to me, well, what are you going to do? You going to retire? What are you going to do? I said, I'd like to travel the world a little bit with my wife, take her to places I've been. And I said, but I'm not going anywhere right now. It's not safe anywhere right now. You can't open your mouth, because if you open your mouth and you say something that's true, look what's going on in England right now. If you say a man is a man and a woman is a woman and a woman isn't a man and a man isn't a woman, you go to jail. It's like, it's nuts. I just was on Fox yesterday. A guy got like 2 years for saying women aren't men and men aren't women. Are you kidding me? You can't even say that. But they can say, the dark side, can say whatever they want. You go try and stand in the middle of the street and build a barricade so that people can't pass by you unless you give them a once over and tell them, what you want about, like, this whole thing about ICE in Minnesota. I was watching the news. I'm like, are you kidding me? If I stood in the middle of the street, let alone built a barricade in the middle of the street, I would be in jail for the rest of my life. That's it. And even the way they talked about how they finally, I guess, took down the barricade, the police officers cleaned up the debris. This is how they said it. The police officers were called to clean up the debris. They didn't say what needed to be said, which was they arrested the perpetrators of this crime of those who blocked the streets and were also trying to impose their beliefs on anybody that was driving by. And if they didn't have the same beliefs, they wouldn't let them through. It's unbelievable. But they cleaned up the debris. Nothing about any arrests, because you can do in this world today. You can do wrong. Wrong is right. As my dad used to say, black is white and white is black to those people. And wrong is right and right is wrong to those people. So I'm just telling you, we have to make sure that we stand up. If we don't stand up, all it takes for evil to prevail is for good men and women to do nothing. Apathy. Yes, and evil has been prevailing. Thank goodness that Donald Trump, as flawed of a man, as many failures as he's had in his life, that doubting monster hasn't kept him from doing his job that God asked him to do, to save this country, I believe, and really the world. Really, I mean, at the end of the day, because the world goes as America goes, and if America falls, the whole world's done. Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? Elon Musk wants to go to Mars. It's great. Go on, head over to Mars, Elon Musk. Smartest guy in the world. Some of the dumbest things come out of his mouth. But he's a pretty brilliant guy, but whew, it's just too wackadoodle for me. God made life so incredibly beautiful and simple, and we complicate it. But it isn't really even us. It's the fact that we believe in all the garbage that's flotsam and jetsam on the internet, and all the things that we're told on the news from the news people, from the media. And that's why I used to think it was so funny when Trump would say, the media, a bunch of liars. And he would call them out. Oh my gosh. He would call them out, and he still does. I love it. I love it because they are such liars. They give us such twisted, just the same way the devil does with our own mind, such twisted information. It's so funny. Yes, Janet, you can't force people to wake up. Narrow is the road and few that will find it. Narrow is the path and few that will find it. It's true, but you know what? Listen, we can't also sit back. And we cannot force people to wake up, but we can try to talk a little bit of sense, like we're doing on this radio show every day. And like how you should be doing as you're sitting by your pool, Janet. You should be talking to whoever's within earshot about these important things. And guess what? It's a hell of a lot better than talking about what the Kardashians are doing. You know what I'm saying? Because most people don't really have much to talk about. Then why not talk about yourself? And not in a boasting way, but in a way that, you could talk to a true friend. I want to tell a story, one more story before we have Colonel Monaco on in the Patriot Outreach Group. But most people are afraid to be vulnerable with each other because you know what? They know that most people can't handle their truth, their honesty, their vulnerability. And it's true. But you know what? Take a chance. Maybe you'll be surprised. Just because you're vulnerable doesn't mean that you are a fool. You can still use wisdom while you're sharing your vulnerable thoughts. Hang with us. We'll be right back. So we're talking now about being vulnerable because it's not easy. I told a story earlier in the show where I went back to Home Depot to buy some products, and I just felt compelled to let this young girl know that I didn't believe that she had the information that I needed. And I said, I'm sorry. I see now that you know your stuff. And I'm impressed, but I'm also sorry that I didn't believe you the first time, but I'm willing to say I'm an old fart. And I was judgmental there for a minute, and I lost myself, and it was kind of a cute conversation. I have to say, it was because I thought to myself, who the hell does that? Who the hell is vulnerable and honest and willing to admit that they've been wrong and been stupid? But people don't do that very often. We should all do that more often. Not that you walk around going, "Oh, I'm a stupid idiot. Come over here. I'll tell you all about it." That's my job. I do that on the radio here. But a friend yesterday, a guy that I have a lot of respect for, who I thought was, pretty well-to-do man of the world, but also a man of God, because he's constantly checking himself against what he believes and what the world is saying, and so he's seeking the truth constantly. And he says, I need to share something with you guys, because I do a Wednesday kind of men's group with a bunch of guys from church, not just churches, several churches around town. And I think they're just guys. A lot of these guys grew up together. And all of a sudden, here's me in there, and I'm, in their minds, I was the former cult leader's son. So it's kind of almost maybe entertaining to have me there. And they don't think my dad's a cult leader anymore, because they obviously they know me now, and they're like, yeah, I can't believe we used to think that. It's kind of silly, isn't it? But, young people have young thoughts, and old judgmental people have old judgmental thoughts. But anyway, he says, I need to be vulnerable, and or maybe he didn't even say that. He goes, I just need to bounce some things off you guys. And so he starts talking about his financial situation and where he's at, and what he's thinking about doing. And it was so refreshing, I got to tell you, to hear somebody that wasn't such an egomaniac that he couldn't let his friends, and I say this with a capital F, friends, because your friends you can entrust some of your personal information to. It's kind of a rare thing to be able to have friends that you can actually lean on. But when you do, you're supposed to use that relationship for that, because it's a sounding board. Sounding boards are good every now and then. Otherwise, you just internalize everything. So, he shares a situation, and there's 3 of us there at the time. So there's only 4 altogether of this little group, and there's 8 sometimes. A couple of the guys weren't there. Anyway, shares this information, and we're all like, you know what? Maybe you should try this, and maybe you should do that, and just offering ideas. And I said to him at one point, I said, you know what? I said, you are just gold. You are gold. And I said, why am I saying that? I said, because you have so much value. Because we look at gold, and gold's valuable, right? I said, don't devalue yourself because you're having a hiccup in life. I said, you are gold. God wants prosperity for you. He wants you to prosper. He wants to see you do good. Maybe he's given you this moment of time as a little bit of a reset. Maybe you were slipping a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit of a reset to just give some thought, whatever. But I said, you're gold. Don't devalue yourself just because you're having a hiccup. Most people, when times are tough, they just don't feel like they're worth anything. I'm valueless. No, you're not. The devil wants to get you down, because when you're down, you are not, you are vulnerable. That's a good way of saying you're vulnerable to the dark side. But you can also be vulnerable to the light side. Because when you're down, this is when, in a really good time, by the way, this is when you call out to God with an earnest heart. You're like, what is it, Lord, that I'm doing? Am I, you check yourself, am I the one that has caused this? Because if you're honest enough to ask that question to God, he may give you the answer. And the answer may be a one-word answer. Yes. You have done this. You have put yourself here because, and then guess what? What comes with it, when you hear yes, what comes with it is a flush, I don't like a better word, rush, a rush of understanding. So my dad called this organization Foundation of Human Understanding, because the human being is a complex creature, very complex. You know, I mean, we are complex, but it's because we make ourselves complex because we do not submit ourselves to God day in and day out. We go it alone, so to speak. But when you go it alone, you literally have pushed away from God and you've leaned into the dark side because you're saying, God, I don't trust you, so I'm going to go it alone. I'm going to hang with the devil for a while. And that never turns out good. You don't even have to ask anybody because you already know it. Ask yourself, how's it worked out for you? How's that worked out for you? So, anyway, this guy was vulnerable. And we talked to him, and I realized, I looked at this guy, here's a low point of his life, and I just see a beautiful, valuable, just worth his weight in gold in monetary ways. But I have to think that's how God looks at each one of us. We're down, we're sad, we're frustrated, but God sees the true value of each one of us every single day of our life. But we don't believe that he does, because we're judging ourselves. We're doing his job. We're judging ourselves from the mistakes and the foolish things we've done. Big mistake. Big mistake. All right. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Colonel Tony Monaco and Chaplain Jack Leroy about Patriot Outreach. See what's going on there. I'm Alan Masters, Perilous World Radio. Take a break and be right back with more. Hang with us. All righty then. Let's see if I can do this any quicker than normal. Right there we go. Yep. I can do it pretty quick. Here goes. Oh, when you're doing the show by yourself, it's so hard to read and talk. Try and read and talk sometime. Whew. It says, Ricky says, your dad admitted FHU wasn't the best name, but it's what he came up with in the early 60s. That's funny. Hello, Tony.
Well, greeting there. Greetings.
Greetings. Just was reading a couple of comments there. Let me add the guest here, of which I have right here. Mm-hmm. And I put this right here and poke in his phone number. How you been?
Oh, not too bad. Oozing forward in life.
Oozing forward. Okay, here we go. I think this will work. All right. Yep, no Brian today. He had something else he had to deal with, so.
I couldn't stand up to the heat, huh?
I know. He told me like
Good
10
morning.
minutes. Good morning. 10 minutes before we went on the air. How you doing, Jack?
I'm doing fine. How about you?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. All right. We're going to get going on this. You guys ready?
Sounds like fun.
Okay. All right, here we go. I'm going to come straight to Tony. 3, 2, 1, and welcome back, Perilous World Radio. It is time for our Patriot Outreach segment. Colonel Tony Monaco, the man that is at the helm, is on the line with us, and Chaplain Jack Leroy is also here. Tony, what's our topic for today?
Stolen Nazi valor.
Oh, what does that mean? Nazi valor? Is there such a thing?
Stolen Nazi valor? Oh, there's always stolen valor.
Well, yes, but Nazi valor?
Well, you don't see the people jumping up and down and moving forward. But see, the point is when you see all the things happening around the country,
Yeah.
people get things confused. First of all, there is not, and I use the word not, a right to protest in the Constitution.
Huh.
People forget it's freedom of assembly.
Oh.
Meaning people come together to share their ideas. They can't be dispersed and things like that.
Yeah.
And the thing there is it's always best to avoid Nazi comparisons because it's difficult to find political program that is not more evil than Hitlerism.
Right.
So the far right and the far left constantly use it. And when they do that, it takes away from the public debate, and the risk of violence keeps increasing. And the thing there is, Chaplain, do you see any parallels?
Well, thank you for allowing me to be on here again.
Yeah.
And yes, there is. Tony talked about the Nazi stolen valor, and I liked your reaction because most people don't think of it that way. But
Right.
literally, Nazis and liberals, the Nazi socialism believed in took the guns away from everybody, censorship, media mind control, abortion, and hate Jews. And if you look at the liberal Democrat socialism, it's no guns, censorship, media mind control, abortion,
Whew.
hate Jews and whites, and they both want you to worship the government. How great thou art. We are at war right now.
Yeah.
I listened to someone the other day. I don't know if I can say his name, but
Yeah, you can.
one of the people. All right, Glenn Beck
Yep.
says, "Wake up, America! You are going to have World War III. You are in World War III, and we need to react." The one party that wants justice, and the American way, needs to stand up, walk out, talk out, and call the Democrats what they are. Quit playing pussyfoot. They don't mess around. It's like the Communist Manifesto.
Right.
If you tell a lie long enough
Yep.
and often enough, it becomes the truth.
That's right.
They call us fascists. They're the fascists.
Right. I was talking about this earlier, how Maxine Waters, the other day says to the guy that she was talking to, he was on the stand, she says, he was talking and she says, "How do we get him to shut up? Just shut up." And I thought, what has happened to diplomacy? There is no diplomacy anymore. It's out the window, completely out the window. And when you get to the point where all you can say to somebody is shut up, we've lost our dignity. And he said to her, "Can you have some dignity?" The left has lost its dignity almost altogether. And sadly, the right ain't far behind, if I can say it like that.
Hold on a second there, brother. Hold on.
Go ahead.
Just the other day, a week or so ago, there was a pro-life demonstration in the D.C. area. There was, they say, estimates for way over 100,000 people assembled.
Wow.
But even with that 100,000 people, there were, as far as I know, 0 cop attacks. There were 0 fires. There were 0 arrests. Not one violent act was mentioned. Not one building was burning. and not one road was blocked. And I didn't see any confrontation with the opposition.
No one got shot.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about when it comes to arguing, and maybe I should have clarified that.
No, that's true. I'm just saying that there's a contrast between freedom of assembly,
right,
which is authorized by the Constitution, but the right to protest is not in the Constitution.
Yeah.
And peaceful assembly.
Peaceful, right.
Not
absolutely.
Which has been proven they're paid, some of them. Antifa today, I'm sorry to butt in, but
no, go ahead.
Antifa today is Hitler's brown shirts. They have integrated into our schools from K to 12, colleges, professors. China has donated hundreds of millions of dollars to. That's why you're seeing all of this socialism come forward. They're being taught and told from kindergarten on, hate America, forgive this, hate whites.
Yeah.
There's the ones that are John Crow.
I know.
Had that.
Well, it's like I said earlier, my father used to say that they're going to tell you black is white and white is black and right is wrong and wrong is right. And by the way, I was talking earlier, thank you to Ricky, he says Maxine Waters was grilling Treasury Secretary Scott Bassent. And I like him. He's a dignified man, but he's not afraid to speak his mind. And he does it with dignity and with facts and information instead of just, foul language and rhetoric that doesn't really get anybody anywhere. It's to tell him to shut up. It's like unbelievable to watch this stuff. And Sean Hannity and all the news people were showcasing it on the news because it's so undignified. We've lost our dignity. America is so close to just losing its dignity altogether in the political realm. I will say this, I wish that Trump wouldn't call names quite so much.
Agreed.
I just wish that he would just up it a notch. But on the other hand, I look at his policies and what he's doing, and I'm thinking to myself, man, he's doing so much good, and all they can pick on is name calling. I mean, that's like the biggest thing. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I jump in here for a second, is that there was a podcast I was watching. It had a bunch of ladies on it that were in their late teens, early 20s. And he asked them a couple of questions that was really mystified. And the one question is what language is spoken in Idaho? Nobody can answer the question. Then the two things that really jumped out was, in what country is the Panama Canal? No one could answer the question. And then the last one, the wife even likes, was, in what country was the Vietnam War fought in? And they still couldn't answer the question. And so I'm giving Trump a break because most people don't watch what we're doing, and it's just emotional content. And so, you just have to keep beating the drums, I would guess.
May I jump in for a second real quick?
Yeah.
When I do my religious research, for one thing, this is kind of off to the side here, I use the co-pilot, the AI on my laptop.
Yeah.
And as I was speaking to have what I wanted to send Tony about today's show, it kept coming back, asking me, and my wife walked by and she goes, "Are you talking to a Democrat?" And, I also did Politibrawl, that character. He had a U.S. representative on there, a U.S. Navy SEAL, God bless him for his service. But he talked very eloquently, very calmly, stated everything that was going on, and it just proved everything we all are saying here. We all agree that we better start doing something because this country's in trouble.
By the way, one of the folks here just gave me a piece of information I did not know. I guess I had heard it, but it now makes sense because I just put the man with the face. Scott Bassett is married to a man. And so I looked it up, and he says, let's see here. Scott Bassett married to John Freeman, a former New York City prosecutor. What is our world coming to? And they have 2 children together. I wonder if they adopted those. But I don't know because I'm not a doctor. Maybe one of them had children. Sorry.
Well, they can do artificial insemination now.
But it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter. Anyway.
back on topic, there is some hope because Senator John Kennedy just introduced a bill that critics say is the RICO nuclear option.
Right.
It's designed to redefine organized crime to include systematic funding of civil unrest.
Right.
And the shadow lobbying, meaning paid protesters.
Yep. Oh, my gosh. Well, gentlemen, thank you for talking with us today. PatriotOutreach.org. If you want to support Patriot Outreach, we're doing our best to make sure that we keep Patriot Outreach top of mind and making sure that everybody knows that these are nonprofit organizations, both FHU and Patriot Outreach, and we both run on your donations. So anything you can do that helps, it's good for the what's good for the goose is good for the gander, I guess. Maybe that doesn't fit this one, but that's okay. We got a goose and a gander.
Good for your soul.
Thanks so much, Jack. Thank you for being on with us today, Chaplain Jack Leroy and Colonel Tony Monaco. Appreciate you guys both.
Charge on, do good.
All right. Again, FHU.com for the foundation, and PatriotOutreach.org for Patriot Outreach. We'll be right back. Okay, guys. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
No problem. Sounds like a good show.
God bless you.
We'll catch up.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yep. Thanks, Jack. Okay, bye-bye. Ay. You just never know with people, do you? You just never know. Hold still. Let me fix this. All right, welcome back. Oh, my gosh. I am blown away. You know, life is so bizarre. It really is. Where we have gotten to in the year 2026, that it's just so weird. There is never a time when, unless you make it, there's never a time when you will, kind of the way it was back in the early, I guess, was, the beginning of mankind, when God would walk with Adam and Eve in the garden, people, and I guess there is a time, but people make the time to go for a walk and be quiet and find that sweet stillness that allows us to actually have a little bit of time with your Creator. It's just so few and far between for so many people, and I'm trying in my own way to make time to be able to have a quiet mind. I don't know. I was going to think, what should I call today's show? What title should I have Stephanie or Mahi or whoever puts the name on the show? The Quiet Mind, or Shut Your Mouth? Because we have such a busy mind that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And it's really out of the abundance of the mind, the mouth speaks. But the two are tied together, and they really shouldn't be. The mind controls the heart. What did somebody said one time? I said, I trust my heart. They said, it says you're not supposed to trust your heart. And I'm like, well, I have faith that God will show me. So, we say things with our mouth Somebody says, watch your mouth. Maybe that's it. Watch your mouth. But anyway, we say things and we hear them later. Or if you do a radio show and you got to see yourself say things 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, and you go, oh, geez, I can't believe I said that. Oh, somebody says something, I can't repeat it even. STFU, I'm not sure what that means, but I don't want to even try and figure it out. But I think I like watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. Maybe that's it. Or maybe shut the hell up, because that's what's coming out of you, is the hell that's coming out of you. And how do you shut the hell up is by being objective, stepping back from it and looking at it and realizing that's coming from hell. All those thoughts and all those angry thoughts and those jealous thoughts and those lustful thoughts, that's coming from hell through you. We are the portal for hell, but we should be the portal for heaven. But we're so immersed underwater, so to speak, underwater in the life that we've created for ourselves. We just don't think, how could God use me for his good? Look what he's doing with Trump. I think there's people that would say, oh, Trump, this, that, and the other. I don't care. You can't worry about what other people think. If you worry about what everybody thinks, you're going to be insane. Anyway, snafu. I do not. Somebody's military acronym, snafu. Somebody's going to have to tell me what that means. I know what Colonel Tony Monaco told me what hua. You've ever heard the military guys go hua? HUA. Heard, understood, acknowledged. I like that one. I don't know if I want to know what snafu means. Anyway, for the record, I chat on all the podcasts. Oh, I see. We've got a chatty Cathy on there. It's chatting away. That's all right. Anyway, so as I close out today, I'm going to come back to where I started, which is watch your mouth. Go through the day and be objective to what you say. And then once you become objective to what you say, oddly enough, you'll start to be objective to what you want to say, but are not allowing it to come out. But just because you don't allow it to come out doesn't mean that you didn't already think it and feel it. And you can look at somebody. There's an expression, forgive me, this is a little nasty. They may have to beep it or not, but it's called resting bitch face. And I hope they can let that go through. When you see somebody's face, when they're not, when they're not conscious that somebody's looking at them and they're smiling at you, and their face is kind of has this snarl to it, or it's just a face that looks unhappy. Because there are people that that they can have this horrible unhappy look on their face when they're not aware of what their face looks like. But if you walk in the room, they're like, oh, hi, versus the resting bee face. It's because of what's inside that's stewing, the witch's brew that's boiling and stewing, and the pain of the decisions you've made, the pain of how your husband's acting or how your wife is not serving you the way you want her to, or whatever it is, because you are literally outside of God's realm. You are in the world and of the world. And so everything weighs on you heavy. What did Jesus say? My yoke is light. So I'm learning how, when I see that ugliness inside of me coming, prowling around, something knocking at my back door, so to speak. Remember that song, Gordon Lightfoot, Don't You Come Knocking on My Back Door? I don't respond to that anymore. I look at it and say, not today, Satan. I've got Jesus. I'm going to put on the armor of God, and I'm going to go forth, and I'm going to try to go forth with his conscience instead of my own pride. All right, that's it. I'll see you tomorrow. Alan Masters, or see you next time when I'm doing the show. I think David's on tomorrow. See you next time. Bye-bye. Okay, folks. Time to shut things down. See you next time over there on Spaces. And over here on the stream. Bye-bye, Toodles. And